Hello and welcome to Speed Campaigning with the Palm Coast Observer. I'm Brian McMillan, the newspaper's editor, and I'm here with John Brady, who's running for Palm Coast Mayor. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, cool. So we're going to do this in 3 different steps. First is the big picture, then we're going to do a speed round where I'm going to read 11 statements, and Mr. Brady is going to give us his answer in the form of a number of how much he agrees or disagrees. And then we'll do a take 2 where he can go back and explain a couple of those answers if he wants. So first off, how old are you and how many years have you lived in Flagler County?
I'm 74 years old. I've lived in Flagler County for 6 years.
Okay, so the big picture questions are, what is the thing you've accomplished that makes you feel most qualified for the position of mayor?
I've spent a long career with Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, with Lehigh and Northampton County, in social service work, also in being a bureaucrat. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in all of the efforts, not only was I focused on caring for people and taking care of their needs, whether they be as a CPS supervisor working with families who were abusing their children, or whether it was working as a mental health counselor, helping people who were suicidal or having mental health emergencies. At the same time, I was very conscious that providing services to the people was costing taxpayer money. And I was very cautious in what I would do and try to find the least costly alternative for people. For example, a person with a mental health emergency sometimes doesn't need to be in the hospital. If you can rally some family support and get them into some sort of outpatient treatment. So that was one of the goals, helping people, but at the same time realizing that there's a cost to the taxpayers. As a bureaucrat working for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, I saved them millions of dollars in a program that we initiated in the 1980s where we delivered welfare checks at the bank. We would deliver the bundle of checks to the bank and people would come in with a photo ID, get their check, cash it, and be on their way. We saved in millions of dollars in 21 counties because there was no fraud or abuse in terms of the delivery of benefits. So those are some of the things I've done along the way. My wife and I have been married 49 years and we've raised 8 children. We have 23 grandchildren with 1 on the way and 4 great-grandchildren.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what are your top 3 priorities in office if you're elected?
The first priority is getting a handle on the expenses that the city of Palm Coast has. I've been doing some research on the budget in Palm Coast, in the county, and in other cities, and we have a $200 million debt, which the mayor denies that the city is in debt. On page 74 of the budget, however, the debt of the city is listed at $175 million. After the city published that budget, they borrowed another $30 million from the state. So the top priority is trying to get a handle on the budget. The second priority is finding ways that we can find out what's going on. I'm committed to a forensic audit of the utility department. And the other thing is, people say to me, well, you're a Democrat, why are you so concerned about spending? And I'm concerned about spending just because if we don't have money, we are going to raise taxes, which is a burden on the people least able to afford it, people on a fixed income, people who have children and families and lost their job. So there is a movement in city council to find ways to increase revenue. One of them being the utility tax. They want to bring that back again. So I really want to see expenses reduced as much as possible so that we can continue the life that we enjoy here in Palm Coast, the amenities that we have here in Palm Coast.
Okay, so is that 3 priorities?
You want another one, or I think so, yes.
Okay, very good. So we have the speed round next, which is, I'm going to read these 10 statements or 11 statements. So scale of 1 to 10, 10 means you completely agree, 1 means you completely disagree. First, the city and county governments have a good working relationship.
1.
There is a duplication of service with fire EMS between the city and the county.
That I would put as a 7.
The city and county should consolidate fire EMS, even if it means that the county might be in charge as a lead agency.
9.
And the city will need to raise taxes to meet the needs of its citizens in the next 4 years.
That's going to be a 5.
Okay. The city charter should be reviewed by a committee of citizens.
That's a 10.
The city council members' salaries are too low and should be raised to the level of a full-time worker.
That's a 4.
The city manager position has the right amount of authority to make the city run smoothly.
That would be a 1.
Jim Landon is doing a good job at the city manager position for Palm Coast.
That would be a 3.
Hiring Buxton to recruit retailers was money well spent.
That would be a 1.
The city's code enforcement department is too strict.
That would be a 5.
And the last question is the city is doing a good job at being friendly to businesses.
Oh, that's a 2.
Okay, so that's the speed round. Now we'll go to take 2, which gives Mr. Brady a chance to revisit a couple of those if you want to elaborate on 2 of them.
The first one I want to elaborate on is the way business is done in the city government. If you've been to a council meeting, you know that what happens is there is a PowerPoint presentation where the department head and the city manager present an option to the city council. It's only one option. What I would like to see in place is what we used to do when I worked for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and that is that when there is an issue or a problem, we used to call it a decision analysis. You can call it what you want. But what would happen is a document would be produced, and in that document, the first piece is the problem stated in 2 or 3 sentences. Second part, second caption would be background, and then there would be 2 or 3 sentences on the background. And then there would be the options, and there would be A, B, C, D. And with A, there would be the pros, cons, same all the way through. And then finally, the recommendation. That document gets presented to the city council. It gets presented to the citizens so that the citizens can see what the steps were in making a recommendation. And I recall early in my career when I was doing one of these, my boss said to me, he said, "You left one out." I said, "What do you mean I left one out? I have 7 options there." He said, "You left out doing nothing." And doing nothing is always an option. Unfortunately, and I spoke up at City Council last Tuesday, we're spending almost $500,000 to put cameras on traffic lights. That $500,000 is just the beginning, because that's phase 1 of a project where there are 4 other phases. That's the kind of thing we should look at. That's the kind of thing we should say, is there a better use for that money? That's the kind of thing that citizens should be more aware of. So that's one of the issues that I have. Secondly, I don't think this government, this city government, is responsive to the needs of the people. For example, twice citizens were asked to approve a new city hall. Twice they turned it down. And yet, somehow the city manager found enough money to build the new city hall. I don't know about anybody else, but if I find a $20 bill on my wallet that I didn't think I have, I'm overjoyed. But to find $15 million when you have a budget debt of $170 million, to me is astounding. So I think listening to what the people say, and along those lines, I'm planning to have a Wednesday with the mayor, and those Wednesdays it would be at a restaurant. We'd have a cup of coffee. We'd advertise the fact that I'm going to be there. I see that as good for business. I see that as good for finding information from the citizens. So those are 2 things that I would say we need to do.
Okay, very good. Again, this is John Brady. He's running for Palm Coast Mayor. And on August 4th, on your driveway will be the Palm Coast Observer's election guide, where you can see his answers along with the other candidates side by side. And don't forget to vote on August 30th in the primary.